This is the new 2022 Toyota GR86, and it's the new version of Toyota's little sports car. You may know it as the Scion FRS or the Toyota 86, but now there's a completely new model, and it's called the GR86, and today I'm going to review it. Before I get started, be sure to check out Cars and Bids, which is my enthusiast car auction website for cool cars from the modern era, now with free listings. You can list your car for free and auction it on Cars and Bids. And we've had some great sales recently, including this Porsche 928, which brought over $30,000 with low mileage. This Ferrari California brought more than $123,000, and this fantastic E60 BMW M5 sold for almost $26,000 with a 6-speed manual transmission. If you're looking to buy or sell a cool enthusiast car from the modern era, the 1980s and up, Cars and Bids is the place to do it, with great selection and daily auctions at carsandbids.com. So let's talk GR86. Just like before, this car is also offered as a Subaru, which is still called the BRZ. I reviewed the new BRZ a few months ago. If you'd prefer this as a Toyota, here it is. I mean, you get a lot of the same stuff, including rear-wheel drive and a 2.4-liter four-cylinder that makes about 230 horsepower, which is about 25 more horses than the old model. And there's more new stuff than just that, of course. The GR86 has a revised look compared to the old Toyota 86 and an updated interior too, with some better technology than before. And just like before, basically everything is shared with the Subaru BRZ, including pricing. This starts at just under $29,000, which is within $200 of the Subaru BRZ's base price. And today I'm going to review the GR86. First, I'll take you on a tour of it and show you all of its interesting quirks and features. Then I'll get it out on the road and drive it, and then I'll give it a Doug score. Alright, I'm going to start the quirks and features of the new GR86 on the outside, where the exterior styling has been heavily updated compared to the outgoing model. And frankly, I think it's a big improvement. At first glance, it looks fairly similar to the old version, but really, when you're standing here next to it, it has a different look and a better one. To me, it looks more muscular, more robust, more like a true sports car. The outgoing one was okay, but it had kind of an economy car turned sports car look to it. To me, this one really does have more of like a brawny, athletic, sports car-like appearance, and I think the changes they made to the exterior styling, even though they're subtle, go a pretty long way to improving the look of this car. But anyway, since we're on the outside, let's go through some notable items out here. One, let's talk trim levels. Now, the GR86 is offered in two trims. There's a base model and then the premium version. The base model starts around $29,000, just a little bit under. The premium version is a little over $31,000. Now, this is a premium model, and there are a few ways to tell on the outside. One is the wheels. The wheels look fairly similar on both versions, but they're larger on the premium. 18-inch wheels here versus 17s on the base model. And in this vicinity, the premium also gets better tires. Michelin Pilot Sport tires on this car for better grip and thus better performance. So wheels and tires different on the premium. And next up, another difference between the base GR86 and the premium on the outside is the rear wing. It's bigger on the premium, and you can see how they make it bigger. They just tack on a larger wing to the already existing smaller wing. You can see it looks like it's just stuck on here and rises up a little bit higher compared to the regular rear wing, and that's how they create the bigger, upgraded wing in the Limited. Just a wing stuck on another wing. And next up, another notable item around back is the badging on this car. You can see it says GR86 back here. I guess technically this is still the Toyota 86, but Toyota is badging all of its performance cars as GR. There's this, the GR Supra, the GR Yaris, etc. Toyota's really trying to make GR into its performance trim, at least for its cars. Of course, that stands for Gazoo Racing, which is like a racing division within Toyota, and now it's trickling down to all of Toyota's performance car models with GR naming and GR badging. badging. And that's also clear on the inside. You climb inside, you have a GR badge at the base of the steering wheel, as you can see, GR. Also, it's printed on the starter button, not just a regular start button, but a GR button. But my very favorite appearance of GR in this interior is in the gauge cluster. When you start the car, you get this cool GR startup graphic. You can see it like spins and then it becomes 86, which is also this car's name. And I actually think that is a pretty cool looking startup graphic that is unique to this car. Kind of a neat touch. And next up, I want to go back to the fact that this is the premium model, which on the interior means you get a few cool upgrades. One is heated seats. You can see the buttons here, 2-stage heated seats for driver and passenger seats, which is pretty nice. And you also get leather and Alcantara trimmed seats. Pretty nice looking and nice feeling Alcantara and leather sport seats that look pretty good, very premium, just like the name of this car. Now the premium trim also gives you some more Alcantara in the interior, like on the door panel here, you can see, looks pretty nice. And on the top of the gauge cluster, strangely enough, an Alcantara surface here. Not exactly sure why, since you never touch it and this doesn't really matter, but that's where they've decided to add Alcantara for the premium models. And next up in the interior, I want to discuss the center screen. This is an 8-inch touchscreen, which is larger than the screen in the outgoing model, which is nice, of course, and it comes standard with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. All GR86 models, not just the premium, come standard with CarPlay and Android Auto, which is a pretty good touch for a modern vehicle. Now, with that said, aside from CarPlay and Android Auto, you don't really get much in this screen. It is very basic, easy to use, intuitive, responsive to your touch, but there's not much in here. You don't even get a built-in navigation. You'll have to use CarPlay or Android Auto for that. So it's a pretty simple screen, but larger than before, full color, easy to use. Now, speaking of screens, you also have a screen in the gauge cluster, which is different from the old 86. And just like the center screen, this one is pretty straightforward. You can see not much to it. On the left, you have like your trip information. In the center, you have your tachometer and your speed. And over on the right, some obvious stuff like your fuel gauge, the time, the temperature, that sort of thing. Pretty standard gauge cluster. Although, with that said, one cool thing about this gauge cluster, if you press this button in the center console, this will turn off your traction control and put the car in like a track mode. And when you do that, you can see the gauge cluster switches to display the tachometer as like these rising bars, which looks way cooler and way more performance-y than just the standard tachometer display. You also get a lap timer here over on the left side, which replaces your trip info. So when you go into track mode, you get a cooler display and a lap timer. My only disappointment here is the only way you can get to this display is if you put the car in track mode, which also turns off your traction control. It would be cool to be able to just switch to this display while you're cruising around without having to turn off your traction control. Now, aside from the screens in this interior, it's pretty similar in here to the outgoing model. If you've spent time in an older BRZ, FRS, or Toyota 86, you'll feel very comfortable and right at home in this car. A lot of stuff is either very similar or just straight carried over. Some examples of similarities in the center control stack, these dials that adjust the climate control are pretty similar to what you had in the old Toyota 86 and BRZ. The steering wheel is very similar. In fact, it might be the same one as the outgoing 86 and BRZ, so that's pretty much carried over. And these buttons here in the center control stack that adjust other climate control functions, they're not exactly the same as the prior model, but they're pretty similar. Plus, the overall look, feel, layout of this interior, dashboard, and controls are all pretty similar to the outgoing model. Again, if you've been in the old one, you'll definitely feel right at home and very comfortable in this one. And next we move on to the back seat in the new GR86. Yes, these cars do have a back seat, and it is incredibly tiny. Getting in is pretty easy. There's a little latch on the back of the front seat. You push it and then push the seat forward, and it creates a little hole, and then you can try to stick yourself inside. Although it's really pretty small back here, adults cannot fit in this back seat, but you do have a little extra space in a pinch if you need to put someone back there, or if you want to carry a child or some extra cargo storage too. Nothing really interesting going on in these back seats. Very no frills, very basic. Toyota knows that nobody is really going to use these things, but they do have the same Alcantara and leather trim as the front seats, which at least makes them look pretty good, which is nice since you'll mainly just be looking at them and not actually using them. But anyway, speaking of the the back of the GR86. Next up, we move on to the trunk. Getting into the trunk is kind of cool, actually. You press this little rubber button hidden in this black trim strip. You would never even really know it's there unless you look closely. You press that and the trunk opens up, and as you can see, it's actually bigger than you might expect. Not huge by any stretch of the imagination, still pretty small, but relatively deep, goes kind of far back, so you can get some decent sized items in here. Now, one drawback to this trunk is that the opening is pretty small. Even though the trunk itself is pretty big and fairly deep, there's not a lot of space to stick stuff in with this relatively small opening. Worth noting also, you can use those back seats for cargo in case you run out of space in the trunk, and the back seats also fold down, as you can see here, giving you a pass-through between the trunk and the passenger compartment for larger items, which can of course be useful in a car that's relatively small. And finally, we move up front to the engine, which frankly is probably the biggest piece of news about the entire car. There is finally more power in the BRZ and the Toyota 86. This is still a boxer 4-cylinder, a horizontally opposed or flat 4 if you want to call it, which is a great powertrain design, nice and balanced, just like the old model. But here it's a little bit larger. It used to be 2 liters, now it's 2.4 liters, so you have a little bit of a bigger engine. And you can see printed right on the top, Toyota and Subaru, just reminding everyone who looks inside of this joint venture between these two brands. Now, bigger engine means, like I said, more power. People have been begging for more power in the FRS and BRZ for ages, and now it's here in the GR86. About 230 horsepower here, which is about 25 horsepower more than the outgoing model, and that's a pretty big boost, more than 10%, especially in a car this size and this weight. But also boosted is torque, about 185 pound-feet of torque, which is a relatively healthy figure, especially compared to the old 155 pound-feet of torque, almost 30 pound-feet increase for this new powertrain. So more power and more torque, a very welcome change to the GR86. So you're curious, how does the extra power in this brand new model translate to actually driving on the road? Let's find out. All right, driving the new GR86. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I did review already the new Subaru BRZ, and I'm gonna link that review in the description below. It's not more comprehensive necessarily, but obviously the cars are so similar, they're so related, that it might be worth watching that too. I did go a little more in depth in that BRZ review. For instance, I complained about the turn signals, which I am just remembering how annoying they are. You push them down and then they go back up, and then you gotta figure out how to turn them off, and it's just such bad design. I can't understand why turn signals can't just be normal. But anyway, let's talk about the driving experience of this car, which is glorious. Now, I was a fan of the old FRS and the old Toyota 86 mostly. The driving dynamics were great. I always really enjoyed driving those cars on curvy roads, throwing them around. It was always a lot of fun, but they suffered from the big flaw, which was they just didn't have enough power. So now I'm absolutely thrilled that we're in this situation where they've finally given these cars a little bit more power. With that said, I've now been driving this car around for a couple days, and I've drove the BRZ for a while too, and they still could use a little bit more power, frankly. They're quick, but they're not like amazingly fast. I'm flooring it here on this on-ramp, and it is strong, but it's not like amazingly strong. It definitely could be better. With that said, I'm not about to complain, because at the end of the day, I always wanted more power from these cars, and now this car has more power, and it is quick, like really quick. 0 to 60 is in the low 6s, which feels quick, but more important than the power in this car is the way that it handles and drives, which is amazing. This car steers and handles fantastically, corners amazingly. The steering is tremendously tight and precise, which you don't often see at this price point, even for sporty cars, like Volkswagen GTI type cars. They're always good, but they're never quite on this level. This has steering precision from a much more valuable and impressive car, and it feels better than the old model. It feels like it has the ability to go a little more towards the limit. It feels stronger. It feels just better through corners, just a little bit. The old one was great, and this one is even better. Amazing precision and amazing handling experience in this car. Now, again, I want to talk power here because I think you could have an even better car if you gave it even more power. This is the same powertrain basically that's used in the Subaru Ascent crossover, and that vehicle has a turbo, and it adds about 30 more horsepower to like 260, and I think that would be the perfect number for this car. And Toyota and Subaru have said they don't want to do it, and some people say they'd have to beef up a lot of components and it wouldn't make sense, but I don't agree with that. I think that people would pay more for the extra power, and they would really enjoy this car. The simple truth, the reason they don't actually want to give it more power is they're afraid that it would compete with the Supra at that point and be sort of a cheaper alternative, which I understand. Especially because this car is just so great to drive. I don't see a huge reason to step up to a Supra, frankly. Overall, I'm really impressed with this car, and it's kind of interesting because when I first saw the images of it, I thought to myself, well, it looks like the old one. It's probably going to be relatively similar to the old one, and it is, but they've improved it just so slightly in a lot of ways that matter. This car was always about lightweight, fun performance, not having some grand new special technology and interior. It's a great little sports car that just became even greater, and especially that's true at this price point. $29,000, people are going to complain, that's not affordable, that's not cheap. Well, the truth is the average new car is now over $40,000. So to be able to get this, a bona fide sports car, for $29,000 or $31,000 for the premium, I think that's a pretty good deal, honestly. And I think this is a really great all-around fun sports car. And so that's the new 2022 Toyota GR86. I mostly liked the old FRS in 86, but this car is better. More power is obviously a good thing, and the styling has been improved. Not much, but enough to make it look more modern and better. This is a great sports car, and it just got better for 2022. And now it's time to give the new GR86 a Doug score. And the Doug score is here, 56 out of 100, exactly the same as the Subaru BRZ, which is no real surprise. There's not that much to distinguish the GR86 from the BRZ, and frankly, I don't think that's a drawback. The BRZ and GR86 are both fantastic cars that drive wonderfully. They're also big improvements over the prior models, adding updates exactly where it was most needed. More power, slightly sharper handling, better tech, and a nicer look. I'm glad the GR86 and BRZ came back for a second generation, and frankly, it's an excellent upgrade over the original.